Welcome teachers to yet another session of Shikshana Sambrama with us. Ella teachers who ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಸಂಭ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ವಂದನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಹೇಳುತ್ತಾ ಜಿಲ್ಲಾ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಮತ್ತು ತರಬೇತಿ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ರಾಮನಗರ ಹಾಗೂ ಕೇರಿಂಗ್ ವಿತ್ ಕಲಾ ಸಹಯೋಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿರೋ ಈ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ಗೆ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರನ್ನು ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸುತ್ತಾ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಮಾಡ್ಯೂಲ್ ಇನ ಹೆಸರು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಕಾನ್ವರ್ಸೇಷನ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ 1. ಸೊ ಇವತ್ತಿನವರೆಗೂ ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿರೋ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಮಾಡ್ಯೂಲ್ಗಳು ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಸ್ಪೀಕಿಂಗ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಇನ್ ಅ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಥೀಮ್ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿ ಒಂದು 2-3 ಪಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ನೋಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಆ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಟೂಲ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸಬಹುದು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನೋಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಇವತ್ತು ಇನ್ನ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಕಾನ್ವರ್ಸೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಇಂಪ್ರೊವೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಮಾಡ್ಯೂಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡೋಣ. ಸೊ ನಮ್ಮ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಕಾನ್ವರ್ಸೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ 1 ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ಯೂಲ್ ಥರ ನಮ್ಮ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದ ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಈ ಮಾಡ್ಯೂಲ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ನಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೀತಾ ಇರುವ ಕಲಿಕಾ ಚೇತರಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸಿ ಒಂದು ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಎನ್ವೈರನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದೆ. ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಎನ್ವೈರನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಫೋಕಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರೋದು ಸ್ಪೀಕಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ ಅನ್ನ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಇಂಪ್ರೊವೈಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು, ಅದು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಇಂಪ್ರೊವೈಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಫೋಕಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಇದನ್ನ ನಮ್ಮ ಈ ಮಾಡ್ಯೂಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅಚೀವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ಸ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಇಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಕಾನ್ವರ್ಸೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೆಯುವ ಹಲವಾರು ಸ್ಟೆಪ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಇವತ್ತು ನಾವು ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಕಾನ್ವರ್ಸೇಷನ್ ಸ್ಟೆಪ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಬಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಕೇಳೋದು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಇವತ್ತು. ಆ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳಿಗೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋ ಉತ್ತರಗಳನ್ನ ಹೆಂಗ್ ನಾವು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಆಗೋದು ಅನ್ನೋ ಕೂಡ ಇವತ್ತು ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಹಂಗಂದ್ರೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಇವತ್ತು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋ ಉತ್ತರಗಳು ನಮ್ಮ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಂದ ಸಿಗದೆ ಹೋಗುವಾಗ ನಾವು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ರೀಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಥವಾ ಪ್ರೋಬಿಂಗ್ ತರ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೆಂಗೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋ ಉತ್ತರಗಳನ್ನ ಅವರಿಂದ ಪಡೆಯಬಹುದು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಕೂಡ ಇವತ್ತು ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಈ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನ ನಮ್ಮ ಮನಸ್ಸಲ್ಲಿಟ್ಟು ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಮಾಡ್ಯೂಲ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ. ಸೊ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಾಡ್ಯೂಲ್ ಬಂದು ನಮ್ಮ ಕಲಿಕಾ ಚೇತರಿಕೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಹಾಗೆ ಜಾನ್ವರಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಫೆಬ್ರವರಿ ಮೈಲ್ ಸ್ಟೋನ್ಸ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಔಟ್ಕಮ್ಸ್ ಬಂದು ಈ ತರ ಇದೆ. ಹಂಗಂದ್ರೆ ಗ್ರೇಡ್ 4 and 5ಗೆ ಮೈಲ್ ಸ್ಟೋನ್ 11, 12, 13 and 14 ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಗ್ರೇಡ್ 6ಗೆ LO ಅಥವಾ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಔಟ್ಕಮ್ 6.9 and 10 ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಗ್ರೇಡ್ 7ಗೆ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಔಟ್ಕಮ್ 7.10 and 7.11 ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಈ ತಿಂಗಳಿನ ನಮ್ಮ ಈ ಮಾಡ್ಯೂಲ್ ಬಂದು ಈ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಔಟ್ಕಮ್ಸ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಮೈಲ್ ಸ್ಟೋನ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಕ್ವಿಕ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ಲೇಮರ್ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಈ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಮೈಲ್ ಸ್ಟೋನ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಔಟ್ಕಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಅಂಶಗಳನ್ನ ನಾವು ನೋಡಲ್ಲ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ವಿಷಯಗಳನ್ನ, ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಈ ಮೈಲ್ ಸ್ಟೋನ್ಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಬೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಾವು ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಮಾಡ್ಯೂಲ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ಪ್ರೊಸೀಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. So now that we've seen a little bit on the background of our module, let's learn and see how do we all as teachers have classroom conversations. So in a classic classroom scenario, the teacher starts the classroom conversation by asking a question, and she expects to get an answer from her learners. But is this as simple as that? No. We know that between getting the answer we want and asking questions from our end as teachers, there are a lot of challenges here. Yes. So keeping all of those challenges in mind, let's see of how classroom conversations do happen. So if a teacher asks a question in the classroom, she always has an expected answer at the back of her head, meaning that the intention behind asking that question is that she wants a particular answer from her students or learners. But does she always get what she wants? Sadly, no. There are situations where she or he only get incorrect answers. So what does the teacher do as a next step? Does classroom conversations just stop here? No. She moves on to ask additional questions. So these are some of the ways in which we handle the challenges of a classroom conversation. So today, let's discuss how to have effective classroom conversations. So what do we mean by effective classroom conversations? Is it anything different from what we're already doing? No. What we're already doing is exactly what we should be doing, but we're just going to focus and improvise on the same steps. As in, the steps to having a classroom conversation is always going to be asking questions and receiving responses from the learners. But we will add on to this with a few more steps to have an effective classroom conversation. So yes, an effective classroom conversation will start with asking a question. It will move on to receiving responses from the learners and the students in the classroom. And then we don't stop at that. We move forward to give them some positive feedback. And we also try and modify the answer that they have given us. So, not always is the answer correct or completely wrong. There are some tits and bits that are right and some tits and bits that are wrong. So, we will try and modify. And the last step is where we introduce the expected answer. So let's go with each of these steps one by one and see how we can handle each of these steps with its details. So the first step is asking a question. So before we ask a question in the classroom, there are some things that we as teachers need to do beforehand as a preparatory mode of teaching. So what are those steps? Or what are those things that we need to keep in mind? The first thing is that we need to decide on the topic, then develop the question that we want to ask in the classroom. But we also must develop the expected answer for that question so that we are ready beforehand. And before we actually ask the question, let's just remember to highlight some important keywords in the answer. So how do we do all of this? Let's see with a simple example. So if we have to decide a topic, we will either take a prose or a poetry from our textbook. This is something that we're all familiar with. But let's see. Here we've taken a sonnet for my incomparable mother. This is a poem from our textbooks. But not necessarily is our topic always about a poem, the concept of poem, or incomparable mother, or the words in the poem. It can simply be based on a topic or concept called the sonnet. So here the teacher must um, take and select her word and choose her topic and start building questions on that. So once sonnet for my mother is taken, just a side note, it's taken from the learning outcome 6.10 of Akalika Chetarike. So if once the topic is chosen, what do we do next? We start building a vocabulary set. So we've all seen in our previous module where elements of speaking English in a classroom, we studied about the tools of a language class. And the tools comprise the first part of vocabulary set. So the vocabulary set has three categories. We've seen it's the definition, features, and examples. So if we've chosen a topic or a concept like sonnet, we need to start building our vocabulary set on it. We have to fill in words in the definition category. We should have enough words in our mind basket where we can talk about the features of a sonnet, and we should have enough examples also in our hand to teach sonnet. How do we do all of this? It's best that we start searching for these words. With Google, as we have that handy, and just type in the words simple definition, simple features, or simple examples. And this will help us come up with a exhaustive list of words which we can use while teaching or questioning about the topic sonnet. So once we've built our vocabulary set and decided on the topic, we have to go further and develop the question now. So how do we develop a question? Yes, a question is something that demands an answer. So what is a sonnet needs to be answered. But how do we come up with this question? If you all remember, in our question building module, we had seen of certain question building tips. Question building tips where that you can use some question words or question starters like what and how, and build questions or start your questions with it. So that will create questions like, what is a sonnet? How do you identify a sonnet? So if this is something that we have already discussed and seen, we'd like to refresh all of your memory with it by doing our first activity for the day. So here it is. Simple instructions for our activity is that we want all of you to take 2 minutes of time and decide on a topic that you have already taught or you are planning to teach in your classrooms. So it can be as simple as food or punctuations or culture or anything at all. But the topic has to be just one. And after you've decided the topic, we want you to build a question related to that topic. So as you can all see on the screen, we've displayed some question words for you. And the purpose for using those question words, meaning that we use the word who when we want to ask for a person, so on and so forth. And we've also displayed on the screen that if you want to create a question based on the definition of your topic, then what kind of question starters can you use? And if you want to talk about the features and examples, then what question words should your question start with? So all of these clues are displayed for you on the screen. We'd like you all to take 2 minutes of time and create these questions and keep it with you. We will ask and give you time a few minutes later where you can share it with us on chat. But till then, we'd like you all to think and work on this question. ಸೊ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಮಾಡ್ಯೂಲಿನ ಮೊದಲ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ 2 ನಿಮಿಷ ಕಾಲಾವಕಾಶ ನಿಮಗೆ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಅದರೊಳಗೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಟೀಚ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋ ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಒಂದು ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೀವು ಚೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಒಂದು ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೀವು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ತಕ್ಷಣ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಚಾಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಕಳಿಸ್ಬೇಕಂತ ಏನಿಲ್ಲ, ಆದ್ರೆ ಇದನ್ನ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಇಟ್ಟಿರಿ. ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಯಾವ ವೊಕ್ಯಾಬ್ಯುಲರಿ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರೀಸ್ಗೆ ಯಾವ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟರ್ ಅನ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅನ್ನೋ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕ್ಲೂಸು ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಲೇ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ನೋಡಿ ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಸೊ ನಾ your time starts now. Wonderful. And also, we hope that you've not created the same questions that have been displayed. We want you each to come up with your own set of questions. So yes, we've now completed 2 things under asking a question category or step. So the next thing to do is to build or develop an expected answer. So what do we mean when we say expected answer? It's nothing that is technical in nature, teachers. Please note that expected answer is a word that we are using in today's module and in the upcoming modules to talk about the answer that the teacher wants her students to learn by the end of the class. The correct or the ideal answer that she wants everyone in the class to learn is what we are calling an expected answer. So what is the expected answer for the question, what is a sonnet? Well, it would be something like this. A sonnet is a poem that has 14 lines with 10 syllables in each line and a unique rhyming pattern. So once we've come up with this answer, or if we need to come up with this answer, the steps are again same. We need to create our vocabulary set, which we've already done while developing the question. But instead of using question frameworks, we need to use sentence building tips to create our sentence. How do we do that? We've seen in our previous modules that to make a good sentence or to frame a good sentence, three blocks or three sentence categories can be used. So if our sentence has to be something like this, a sonnet has 14 lines with 10 syllables in each line, this sentence can be split into three blocks. As in, the word a sonnet is actually talking about what the sentence is focusing on. So the first block of a sentence is always the what block. As in, if we address and answer what are we talking about here in the first place, where it can be either a person, place, animal, or thing, or any noun, the first block would be covered. The second block generally talks about the first block and describes it or talks about any action that it is doing. As in, if we're talking about a sonnet, we need to describe a sonnet in the second block of the sentence, meaning that a sonnet has 14 lines. This is a description. A sonnet was used in Old English poetry. This is again a description of the sonnet. So these two blocks itself can make a sentence, but sometimes we also add an additional block to our sentences, which is the third one. Here we talk about the reason, the process, the time or place about the first block, what. As in, a sonnet has 14 lines with 10 syllables in each line. With 10 syllables in each line is talking about the place where a sonnet is used. So it's giving us more information about a sonnet. During the Victorian time period is again an extra information that's given on the time of the sonnet. So here you see how just filling these three sentence blocks, talking about what, talking about the action and description of the what block, and then giving a reason and a process and a time and a place to the what block can actually help us come up with good and effective sentences. So this is again something that we have dealt with in our previous modules, in our sentence building modules, so to say. Hoping that we've refreshed memory, here is our next activity for the day. Here again, we'd like you all to take 2 minutes of time and come up with an expected answer for the question that you've already created. So we've given you 2 minutes of time to create a question. Now we want you to answer that question. So again, we want you to use your vocabulary set and these sentence blocks and come up with a good and effective sentence. But also do not forget to highlight the important keywords in your expected answer statement. So here are some clues displayed for you on the screen. Uh, Read them carefully, answer them, and then you'll be able to come up with your own answers. ಸೊ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ನಮಗೆ ಇವತ್ತು ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋ ಎರಡನೇ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ತಿರ್ಗಾ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ 2 ನಿಮಿಷ ಕಾಲಾವಕಾಶ ಕೊಡಲಾಗುತ್ತದೆ. ಈ 2 ನಿಮಿಷದಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗೆ ನೀವು ಇವಾಗ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಅಥವಾ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ಉತ್ತರನ ನೀವು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳನ್ನ ನಿಮ್ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀರಂತ ಮಾಡಿಟ್ಟಿರಿ. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಆ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ನ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಕ್ಲೂಸ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಫ್ರೇಮ್ ವರ್ಕ್ಸ್ ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಲೇ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಹಾಗಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ ಸೆಂಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಬಿಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ಯೂಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಸೆಂಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ಸ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಲೇ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಆನ್ಸರ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ನೋಟ್, ಈ ಆನ್ಸರ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋ ಕೀವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹೈಲೈಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಇಟ್ಟಿರಿ. ನಾವು ಹೇಳಿದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಅದನ್ನ ನೀವು ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಯೋರ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ನೌ. So yes, now that we've developed our expected answers, the next important step that we need to do even before asking a question in the classroom is to highlight the important keywords. So let's just take the same example and highlight a few keywords in this sonnet definition. So we'll end up highlighting words like a sonnet or a poem, or 14 lines, or 10 syllables, or a unique rhyming. Why do we highlight these important keywords? It's only because this is going to make it simpler and easier for us to identify and categorize the responses that we'll be getting from our students. So remember that these are a few steps that will actually help us ask effective questions in the classroom. So amongst the many steps that we have in our classroom conversation, we've seen the first step now. Asking a question has been covered in detail. Let's move on now with Michelle taking us through the next step, which is receiving responses.
Thank you, Ms. Ba. Dear teachers, I hope that so far the session has been informative for you. We have learned, as Ms. Ba has taken us, that starting a classroom conversation always happens with asking questions and receiving different types of responses. And now, as you all have created and sent us your questions and answers on the chat, in the chat box. Thank you for sending us your questions and responses. If you are not able to send it to us, please don't worry. You can also write it down in your in a book or a notebook, just so that you are able to practice as we are taking the session. So we have created a question, and we have also created what we expect as an answer or as the right answer with the different keywords. So I will just take you back to the previous slide. So here, Ms. Ba has told you that we need to highlight important keywords. So the main goal of highlighting important keywords is to help us understand or help us keep a check on what kind of answers we expect the students to give us. As we all know, there are many challenges that we come across in a classroom while receiving responses. So when we receive responses, we need to have a certain checklist that helps us understand which child is giving us the right answer, which child is giving us a half right answer or a wrong answer, and so on. So highlighting these keywords is a good way for us to keep a mark on getting the correct responses and dividing the right responses from the wrong responses or the half right responses, especially in a language. So when it comes to English classrooms especially, this technique can help us categorize our answers. So we have created a question and we have an expected answer. So the natural step is, after asking the question, Our next goal is receiving responses. So step number 2 is receiving responses from the students. As we know, we will not receive only one type of response. We will receive many types of responses from the students. And when we receive responses, it is important for us as teachers to give positive feedback. So, how do we go on with the classroom conversation, especially in a language like English? And how do we create an environment where English is spoken and we can converse with the students? We follow these few steps. So, right now in today's module, we will be looking at receiving responses and giving positive feedback for the different responses that we receive in the classroom. So here I have for you an example where a teacher is asking a question in a classroom. Now the students might give different types of answers. We will focus on one particular type of answer. Let's see how it goes. Okay, can anybody tell me what is a moon? Anybody know what is a moon? Moon is white. Moon is white. Moon is white. Okay, so very simple, right? Here we have a question the teacher is asking. She's saying, what is a moon? And the child is answering, moon is white. Now the teacher might expect a bigger answer from the child. But the child has responded and said the moon is white. Perhaps the expected answer in the teacher's mind is a moon is a celestial body that we see in space, or a moon is a satellite. But the child has replied saying moon is white. Now a small activity for you teachers. What is the next step of the conversation? How will you respond to this child if they have answered this way in your class? So I would request you to send your answers using the chat box. We would be very interested to listen to the different steps as a teacher you would use to continue the conversation with this child. So yes, so many times our strategy involves asking for more information or asking more questions, right? Helping the students respond to us by asking even more questions. So let us try to put that into a few simple steps to follow for us to develop a guided conversation with the children that helps them be productive and helps us guide them to the right answer while also helping us develop a conversation with them. So so let's see how we receive responses first. So there are 4 types of responses that we can receive in the classroom, and we can categorize them in this way. We have a correct answer, we have partially correct answer, we have wrong answer, and we have no answer. So many of you said your challenges are the students might not answer, the students might not comprehend the question, so on and so forth. So these are the different types of answers that we will get. And sometimes these answers might also come to us bilingually. Just like one of you pointed out, some of them might answer in their mother tongue. So as these modules go, we will deal with each of these types of answers and we will see how we can respond to these answers while developing a conversation. So let us look at the types of responses and how we can deal with them. So let us practice this using an example from Learning Outcome 7.11, Activity 1.3 and 1.4. Now the question the teacher can ask is, what do we do when we do not want to repeat a noun? So this is the question based on an activity regarding pronouns. So the teacher can ask the children, what do we do when we do not want to repeat a noun? So the expected answer in the teacher's mind, or the expected answer the teacher can develop, can be something like this. We can use words to replace the noun such as him, her, them, or it. Now the teacher has developed this expected answer for herself, and she has highlighted important keywords such as words to replace, noun, him, her, them, or it. Now let's see how a teacher can categorize the responses given by students based on the expected answer and the keywords she has highlighted. The first type of answer is the correct answer. I'm sure all of us, this is our favorite type of answer. Yes, we love to receive correct answers from our children, and it's very exciting to know that they are on the right path. So, how do we judge if an answer is correct? It will have two or more keywords that you have listed down in your expected answer. The answer has most of the information you are looking for. So these are two criteria that we can use to tell us that yes, this child has given us the right answer. So here we have the expected answer the teacher's mind. And if a child gives us an answer such as this, we can use words like him, her, them, or it. Here we see that the child has used a couple of keywords from the answer that we have noted down as expected answer. And they have used more than 2 or 3 keywords that we are expecting. So that is great. So child gives us a correct answer. What do we do next? Right? The next step to respond to a correct answer is responding with positive appreciation statements. Okay, so very quickly, I'm going to ask you any idea how we can positively appreciate a child who has given us the correct answer? I'm just quickly looking for any teachers, any one of you, 1 or 2 sentences you can tell me. How can you positively appreciate a child? What sentences would you use? What kind of dialogues would you use to appreciate a child if they're given you a correct answer? Yes, so these are the different types of positive appreciation statements. So let's look at some statements that we can use. On your left, you will see some cutouts that maybe as in your classrooms, you can use these as placards for your students. Every time they give you a correct answer, you can hold this up for them. So it becomes a great way to appreciate them. Now, let us very quickly practice these positive appreciation statements. Um, I will say the statement, and wherever you are, I request you teachers, please repeat after me. And I am sure that you have come up with some statements that we have missed out. So don't hesitate to send them on the group and share them with the other teachers. But while we do that, let us practice what we have on our screen. Please do repeat after me. And I would request my fellow trainers here to also do this exercise with me. Very good.
Very good.
That is correct.
That is correct.
Good answer.
Good answer.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Wonderful answer.
Wonderful answer.
Great.
Great.
Well done.
Well done.
Well done.
That's nice.
That's
That's
nice.
nice.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Good job.
Good job.
Yes, thank you, teachers. I hope you've repeated the statements after me. I would kindly request you to note that the intonation when we are making these statements, the intonation or the tone in which we are making the statements is very important. So I really do hope that you have repeated these sentences after me. Now, we have looked at how to respond to one type of response, that is the correct response. There's another type of response that is called partially correct response. So this is a very interesting type of response. So how do we know what a partially correct response is? This answer has similar or modified versions of few keywords in your expected answer. This answer can lack full information. It has a little information, but it lacks most of the information you are looking for. And the answer may have 1 or 2 incorrect keywords, right? So this answer might be half right, but it might also be missing information, and it also might be having some incorrect keywords. So let us look at what that is with this example. So here again, there is a expected answer in the teacher's mind, which is she's expecting the students to say, we can use words to replace the noun such as him, her, them, or it. Now let us see what a half correct or a partially correct response looks like. So here the child is saying we can replace nouns with different words. So here the child is using just one keyword, and he's missing a lot of information, right? He is not probably talking about the examples, or he's not probably mentioning what types of words are used to replace nouns. Here, another example can be, we can use it or him. So here he's giving you a very half correct response, where he's giving just two examples of the words that might be used for to replace nouns. But he's missing a lot of information that you need. And then another type of response can be, we can use it, him, or off. Now here we see that the child has used correct keywords, but he has also used one incorrect keyword, right? So all of these types of responses we can call partially correct response. So when we see a partially correct response, how do we as teachers respond to the children and carry the conversation forward? So there are two important steps we can use here. One is we respond with positive feedback statements. So in the previous type of response, that is correct response, we responded with positive appreciative statements. Here we are still being positive, but we're also including feedback in our statements. So that is the first step to respond to a partially correct answer. Second step is we will use a very interesting technique called probing. So we will come to what probing is in just a minute. But before that, let us see how we can use positive feedback statements. So here is a list of positive feedback statements. As you can read, they are still positive. They are still appreciating the child, but they also include feedback that we can give to the child. So I'm getting some responses here already. Savita ma'am is saying good, but you have to add some more. Excellent, ma'am. So yes, so here she's saying she's giving a good word, or she's appreciating the child and saying good, but she's also including a feedback, but you have to add some more, right? So let's look at some statements like this. Once again, I will read out the statement and I will request you to repeat after me. Please pay attention to the intonation of my sentence and please try to repeat the sentence with the same intonation. So let's try. I'm going to ask my fellow trainers to also repeat while you are repeating. Good. Let's think of some more words.
Good. Let's think of some more words.
That is great. That is a great start. Keep thinking.
That is a great start. Keep thinking.
Very nice. You are very close.
You are very close.
I love your suggestion.
I love your suggestion.
You are close to the answer.
You are close to the answer.
But let us ask some questions first.
But let us ask some questions first.
Excellent. Thank you, Maria and Ms. Ba, for helping us repeat. So amazing. Now you have given some positive feedback statements. What are the other things we can do to help a child who has given us a partially correct answer think about their answer and arrive at the expected answer that we have? So here we will use a very interesting technique called probing. So I am going to just quickly ask you teachers, any idea what probing is? If any of you just have any idea, please don't hesitate to respond. Very quickly, you can just tell us on chat, what do you think probing is? In a different way. Okay, interesting answer. So very quickly, let's see what probing is and how do we probe. So probing is a technique we use to help children think more about their responses by asking them questions and making statements. So how do we probe? One is we ask clarifying questions, and two is we use reflective statements and questions. So let's quickly see how we can ask clarifying questions. So clarifying questions are something like this. Now let's take another example from milestone 14. The objective is describing objects or toys orally and in written form, identifying toys and familiar objects. So the question that we want to ask, or the teacher might want to ask, can be, can you identify this item? The expected answer in the teacher's mind is, this is a basketball used to bounce and play. But the child has given the answer, it is a basketball used to kick and play. So here, while the child has used some correct keywords in their answer, they have used an incorrect keyword. So this is a partially correct answer because it lacks all the information we need. There is an incorrect keyword, and there is more probably information we would require from the child. So here are some clarifying questions we can ask. Did you just say it is kicked and played? Can you repeat your answer once more? I heard you say it is a basketball used to kick and play. Is that right? So now, in these questions, we can use some of these questions as question frameworks, and we can use it with any kind of question that we are asking in the classroom. So let us see what these question frameworks are. So here are some question frameworks used to clarify a question or a statement made by the child. Did you say dash? Can you repeat your answer once more? I heard you say dash. Is that right? Let us look at another example. Learning outcome 7.10 says, thinks critically and responds to question based on text. So here, if we are showing this picture to the child and we want to ask the question, which festival does this picture remind you of? Our expected answer could be, this picture reminds us of the festival of lights, Diwali. And the child has answered, this picture reminds us of lights and throwing colors. So here we know that the child has used one correct keyword, but has also used an incorrect keyword, that is throwing colors. So how do we ask clarifying questions? Let us use the same question frameworks. So here we can say, did you say lights and throwing color? Can you repeat your answer once more? I heard you say this festival reminds us of lights and throwing color. Is that right? So once you have asked clarifying questions and heard this child correctly, or made sure you've heard the child correctly, the second step you will follow is using reflective statements and questions. So let's go back to the basketball example. The reflective statements or questions we can ask the children are listed below, and some of you have already attempted to ask reflective questions in the chat box. So here are some reflective questions we can ask. What makes you say kick? Does this look like a football to you? Give me more details about this ball. Can you think of another example or description? This ball is used to bounce and play, not kick, right? So if we actually look closely, again, these questions can be used as frameworks for us to ask questions about many objects or many events or many things. What makes you say dash? Does this look like dash? What are the other details you can tell me about dash? Can you think of another description example of dash? This dash is dash, not dash. So let us see how we can use it with the same example of Diwali, that is Festival of Lights. What makes you say lights and throwing colors? Does this look like a festival where we throw colors? What are the other details you can tell me about the Festival of Lights, or what are the other details you can tell me about the picture? Can you think of another description or examples of items we can use in this festival? This picture is showing us lights, not colors. So here is how we can use the question frameworks to help us clarify and reflect, right? So now let us do a final activity. This teacher has asked a question in her classroom, who is this famous personality? So here we can see a picture of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and the teacher has asked the child, who is this famous personality? The expected answer in her mind is, this is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who is a great Indian politician, and who helped draft the Constitution of India. The child has answered, this is a famous politician and he is a freedom fighter. So as we all know, the word freedom fighter is an incorrect information or keyword that the child is giving us. But the child has also given us some correct keywords like famous politician. So this is a partially correct answer, and now we need to probe the child. So teachers, this is the final activity for you. Can you use the following question frameworks to probe the child? So we have step 1, clarify. So use the clarifying question frameworks to clarify the answer. And step 2, ask reflective statements and questions. So here, use the next set of question frameworks to probe the child and ask them to reflect on their answer. So the question frameworks are displayed for you on your screen. I would request each of you to send us your responses on chat. How would you probe this child who has answered this way about the famous Indian figure B.R. Ambedkar? Please keep in mind that you can refer to the expected answer above to help you understand where the child is right and where the child is wrong. Okay, excellent. So excellent questions and excellent probing. So these are the steps that we can follow to probe the child, right? So here we reach the end of our session. Thank you so much for your participation, dear teachers, and I hope this session was informative to you. We would encourage you to use these techniques in your classroom to help you develop the conversation with the children.